Morning, guys and gals. We're talking about converting mixed to improper fractions today. We're also going to do improper to mixed and then roll right on into our adding and subtracting a fraction. So we're going to put a few things together that you've already learned, and this is a review in case you're starting to forget or you're making some mistakes and need to go back. Anyhow, converting mixed to improper, first you have to know that a mixed fraction is something with a whole number and a fraction put together. So I'm going to use the example 4 and 1/3. Now if we look at the steps here, and it's the same as that's in your note, the first thing we're going to do is multiply the denominator by the whole number and then add the numerator. When we do this, you have to know your terms, and that was what we did in our first day, and we did a note, and you have to know what all these means. Remember, you're doing this since grade 5, so at some point you have to really try and want to know these terms. Anyhow, the first thing says multiply the denominator, which is the bottom number, and you're going to multiply it by your whole number, which is this big number here. When you're done with that, you're going to add that number there. And I love putting the multiplication sign and the plus sign just to refresh my memory in what I'm doing. Anyhow, it says the answer to that question is going to be the new numerator. So 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. And then it says the denominator stays the same, so my denominator was 3 over there, so it's going to be 3 over there. So basically 4 and 1/3 is equal to 13 over 3. And we're going to need that for when we multiply, divide, add, subtract. We're going to need to do that first. So I'll do just 1 or 2 more because, like I said, we've already done it. But here is 2 and 1/5. Remember, the instructions are to multiply the denominator times the whole number, then add the numerator. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. The denominator stays the same. All right, last shot, guys, because just something you got to get on. 10 and 1/2, I want to know what that is as an improper fraction. So I do my denominator times my whole number, which is 2 times 10 plus 1. 2 times 10 is 20, plus 1 is 21. Denominator stays the same. That's all we have to do for those. When we're converting improper to mixed, it's a little bit different, and you won't have to do this nearly as much. The high school teachers that I've been talking to, many of them say, when you have a final answer and it's a improper fraction, as long as it's in its lowest terms, go ahead and just leave it there. So that was good for me. It's a little less work for you, and we will still have to work on the idea of reducing, but we know that an improper fraction is something where the top number is bigger than the bottom number. The numerator is larger than the denominator. Anyhow, the first thing it says is determine how many times that denominator will go into this numerator evenly, and evenly is the key word in this direction. So 5 will go into 16 3 times evenly. That'll be 15. So that number that goes in evenly, that becomes the new whole number. Then it says the remainder, the difference between this original number and the number you just came up with, which was 15, is the new numerator. So that's 16, and we were just at 15, so the difference is 1. And again, just like before, our denominator stays the same. So that's how you do it. That's 3 and 1/5. I'll do a few more, even though we've done lots in class, but I'll just check it out. We have something like 8 over 3. How many times will 3 go into 8 evenly? It'll only go in twice evenly. 3 times 2 is 6. So I have to determine what is the difference between 8 and 6. The difference is 2. The denominator stays the same. And I'll just switch up colors for the last. I'll make this something a little bit bigger, like 29. And I'll put something like 8 in there. So now you have to use your calculator or whatever if you're not really quick at it, but we know 8 goes in at least twice, that's 16. Okay, 8 goes in 3 times, that's 24. 8 goes in 4 times, 32. Nope, it won't go in 4 times, so 3 must be the most times it goes in. 3 times 8 is 24, and I have to find the difference between 29 and 24. I know that's 5. So 3 and 5/8 is our final answer. And then what we did was we started to add and subtract fractions. Now, at the beginning, there were no mixed, but we're in grade 8 and they're all going to have mixed fractions. You will not have any that are not mixed fractions to start with. So the first step here is to change all mixed to improper, then find a common denominator. So let's start with a fraction like 1 and 1/2 plus 2 and 1/6. Remember, our first step is to change those over. So that's the whole idea of multiply plus, multiply plus. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So that's 3 over 2, plus 6 times 2 is 12, 1 is 13 over 6. So there's our first thing done. We've changed all of our mixed to impropers. Now we have to find a common denominator. Now, remember, if you can use one of the two denominators, you're working out well. If the smaller number will go into the bigger number, you only have to change one of them. And by chance, 2 will go into 6. It'll go, and how do we get 2 to make 6? We have to do 2 times 3, because that will make it the same denominator. So you multiply the top and the bottom by 3. Your new fraction is going to be 9/6 plus 13/6. And 13/6 plus 9/6 is 22 over 6. That's an improper fraction. Like I said, we're going to talk later about leaving these fractions the way they are. But for now, we are going to just reduce them just a little bit, or convert them back to mixed. So 6 goes into 22 evenly 3 times. So 6 times 3 is 18. The remainder will be 4. And 6 is our denominator. Now I want to just bring your attention to this fraction, because we're going to talk about something called reducing. And when we reduce, we have to find a number that'll go into the top and bottom number of our fraction to make it the smallest terms possible. And just from knowing my idea of even numbers, I know 2 will go into 4, and I know 2 will go into 6. So if we reduce this fraction, this will be 2/3, so 3 2/3. And we talked about that with equivalent fractions, that you can multiply them by the same number or divide them by the same number. In this case, we're dividing by the same number, trying to get them as small as possible. So that would be the best answer for this type of question. I do another addition and a couple of subtractions. So I'll do 5 1/4 plus 2 1/3. Now in this case, I can tell you right off the bat, the denominators won't go into each other. We're going to have to do something a little different. So anyhow, no problem. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1 is 21 over 4. And 3 times 2 plus 1 is 7 over 3. So there's our two fractions that we're going to be doing, but we need a common denominator. We can't add them as it is. And the smaller number 3 won't go into 4 evenly. So we're going to have to find the smallest number that both 3 and 4 will go into. And if you don't know, what we can always do is just multiply by the opposite denominator. So I'm going to multiply this fraction here by 3. And I'm going to multiply this fraction here, the numerator and denominator, by 4. And when you do that, you'll find the common denominator for both of them. Here we go, 21. Don't worry that the numbers are getting bigger. 21 times 3 is 63 over 12. And 7 times 4 is 28 over 12. 63, 28 is 91 over 12. And now we have to change it back to a mixed. So when I'm looking at it, I can say, okay, 12 goes into 12. 7 times is going to be 84. So 7 is going to be my whole number. The difference between 84 and 91 is 7/12. I would look to this to see if I can make that any smaller. With 7/12, there's no number that'll go into the numerator and denominator. So that's our answer. All right, I'll do a couple subtraction. It is the exact same steps. I'll actually just do one then. So I'm going to go 5 1/5. Subtract 3 1/2. First step, change to improper, so that'll be 26 over 5. If I'm starting to pick up steam, it's just because we've done it enough now. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7 over 2. I need a common denominator. 2 will not go in evenly to 5, so we'll just multiply this whole side by 2. And this fraction, the numerator and denominator, by 5. That'll get us a new common denominator. So we have 10 here, and 26 times 2 is 52. When we subtract, again, that will be 10 as my denominator on that side, and 7 and 5 is 35. So now we have a straight subtraction question, and we're just going to subtract the numerators. 35 taken from 52 is 15 is 17 over 10. That is an improper fraction, so we have to see how many times 10 will go into 17. That's our whole number, so that'll be 1. 7 is my remainder. Denominator stays the same. We've practiced it. You've done fairly well. I just wanted to leave this as a refresher for when we get to Bedmas and things might start to get a bit confusing for you. All right, good luck.